Hey, you gang, we are in Georgia right now. We're in Blue Ridge country. We're actually in Gainesville, Georgia. And we're coming across I'm going to say an infamous bridge, but rather an infamous lake. Have you heard of Lake Lanier? It's got a lot of bad juju going on there. A lot of bad karma. We're going to talk about it. But right up here as we cross the bridge. Now, the bridge was built in 56, I think it was, and a couple years after this bridge, I'll give you a look here we come. A couple years after this bridge was built, and of course it didn't look like this, probably a rickety old thing where a car could go right off into this Lake Lanier. There it is. Oh boy, wait till you hear about this lake. Not good. A lot of death here. Well, this is where these two women we're going to talk about had a bad evening. We're going to go to the cemetery right now, Altavista, and I'm going to tell you the story at their graves. Okay, we've made it here to Altavista Cemetery. Not too far away, it's kind of right downtown here. Lake Lanier right behind me. Lake Lanier. Yeah, wait till you hear. It's a massive lake. It was man-made back in 1956, I believe. And 26 miles long, 700 miles of shoreline. And they say it just swallows people in one gulp. One gulp. What does that mean? Well, let's talk about it. People just disappear. You fall overboard on the boat, you don't come back up, they say. Not just a legend, not just a rumor, but a lot of accounts. You know, where you're flailing, if you're drowning on the surface, you're trying to get up. Well, not here. Say the water's like molasses, and there's some creepy things down there that we're going to talk about. It actually does have a pretty high, it has an inordinate amount of deaths. I mean, when you compare to other bodies of water, big bodies of water, similar size, it has a very high ratio. So it's not just a little rumor that's going around town. This is fact. Now, what's really kind of creepy about this, and let's just get right to it, is that when they built this, they surveyed to do this back in the 50s. They really did I don't want to say a haphazard job, but they just there were towns in this valley, and what they did was they just, they evacuated the people out, but they didn't do much else, and then they flooded it. So basically what you have is you have homes, you have like little towns that are underwater, submerged. You have, houses, you have streets, you have buildings, stores, trees, roads, even bridges underwater. They're like underwater ghost towns. And if you see people scuba diving, it's like really eerie. I've seen some stuff on this. Now, they say that, part of the The danger in that lake, especially if you're not wearing a life preserver, which just keeps you on the surface, is that there's a lot of, there's a lot of things underwater that can get you. All these obstructions, all these entanglements. But I think what's really sinister is you have to ask yourself, what about the cemeteries? What about the graveyards? What about all the graves? You just flood it. Now, again, they made an effort to relocate the cemeteries, but not nearly everybody is relocated. And the most sinister thing that you can just throw in there is they uncovered recently when there was a drought and the waters went way down, and they discovered a huge Indian burial mound from the creek and the Cherokee, and it's being respected now and everything, but imagine all the bodies from that and the cemeteries being flooded. I mean, they're mixed in with the lake. So everything being considered, it's just a really super creepy deal. I don't know if I would go boating in there, especially with the prop and the motor, the stuff that you can hit. So that said, you have to wonder if the waters are not only cursed but dangerous, both. What we're going to talk about today are these two women, and we're going to say that they're called the ladies of the lake around these parts. It's a local tragedy that most of the people here know about. Very sad tale. It was on the evening of April 16th, 1958. There were two mothers who would go out together to a local roadhouse. 37-year-old Susie Smallwood Roberts picked up her friend, 23-year-old Delia Mae Parker Young. Delia Mae Parker Young in her 1954 blue Ford, and they were going for a night out. Delia worked at the Riverside Military Academy. She had borrowed a blue dress to wear on her night out, and they planned to go dancing. They made it to the dance, but they left early. They both left early, and they left together. They went to this Dalton County Roadhouse. It was called the Three Gables. And then the last sighting of them was at a gas station that was very nearby. That is the last time anyone saw them alive. Period. Now, some days later, there were some skid marks found right where we were on the bridge there, the old bridge. Of course, remember now, as I said, the bridge we were on is very recent. So if you go 56, they did the flood. 58, they built the first bridge, probably a wooden bridge, probably nothing much. And that's what they found skid marks on. But nobody thought anything of it. Skid marks. See those all the time, everywhere, right? And police did a thorough search of the area. City, everywhere, looking for the women that had disappeared. Now, 18 months would pass, and all of a sudden a body was found. A body that had floated up from the water there. There was a fisherman. He was right under the bridge there. And he reported it. They came out and they brought the body up. Of course, it was a woman. But interestingly, her body was missing 2 toes on the left foot, and she had no hands. No hands. Nobody knew what that meant, if anything. But they were not able to identify her. And nobody put 2 and 2 together of what was going on with the story of the 2 women. 3 decades later, in 1990, officials would discover a 1950s Ford sedan at the bottom of the lake there. Guess what? The remains of Susie Roberts were in there. Yeah, she was still in the car. So you put together that with the other body found with no hands, and they couldn't really identify her, of course, super decomposed. You say, well, that was Delia. So they took those remains and they brought them here. And this is where she is buried, right up ahead here. Delia Mae Parker Young. And her ghost has been spotted over the lake many times over the years at that bridge. If you go to that bridge, you might see her. They say that she is still in her blue dress. She's wandering near the bridge at night with handless arms, waiting to drag unsuspecting lakegoers to the bottom. Well, I don't know about that. But what we do know is she's interred here, right here. There is a stone here that is pretty much unmarked. It says BL. And then next to it here is John Lingerfelt. Now, I don't know who he is. There is no one shown on Find a Grave as a relation to him. So, let's read the inscription. September 21st, 1935, and that fateful night of April 16th, 1958. Well, I'm going to add two roses. And if someone that lives in this area that's watching, maybe you could stop by here, and if you know where Susie Roberts' grave is, maybe you could take that rose and bring it to her grave. I would appreciate it. And that is the story. I would stay away from Lake Lanier, maybe, unless you're in a good boat with good life vests. Rest in peace, Delia Mae Parker Young. Rest in peace.